Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a CEO at American Rights Alliance, none other than Mr. Ivan Turk. Welcome, Mr. Ivan, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Yes, my name is Evan Turk. I am a wealth and asset protection attorney, estates trusts, do a lot in family law as well. And I also am the founder and CEO of a civil liberties 501c3 called the American Rights Alliance.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Ivan. Thank you for empowering us. And today let's talk about the top 5 mistakes wealthy people make in divorce and how to avoid them. Oh, I like our topic for today, Mr. Ivan. So, when you look at your list of a top 5 mistakes, is there a single overreaching blind spot or mindset
Yeah.
that connects them of all wealthy individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons I got into doing a lot of family law planning from a perspective of asset protection, because the general rule in Florida and many states, but my headquarters is in Florida, is the best way to protect your wealth from creditors is by titling assets in your spouse's name or jointly in your spouse's name without realizing your biggest creditor often from a statistical percentage exceptionally higher than any other risk is your spouse. And I see this all the time. People transfer assets into their spouse's name thinking that they are going to get asset protection from creditors, not realizing that they're giving their spouse an opportunity to take most of their money. And that's the biggest risk. The second is not knowing how your assets are owned, held, and not realizing that you should have a strategy using family limited partnerships and other mechanisms to keep your control but reduce your value of your assets so that when it comes time to divorce, you have a lot less in value but control a lot more in assets. For example, if you have 2 kids, you create a business with them, you run the business, but they're minority owners of the business. They have a value of that business, and you have a little bit less control of the business. Therefore, when you come time to file your assets, a CPA can certify the value of those assets being a lot less. So and the number 2 mistake is not really structuring your assets properly and speaking to an attorney that can set this up. And it's not for divorce, but primarily it's for estate taxes and other asset protection purposes. But it has an amazing unintended or intended consequence of lowering your net worth subject to a divorce. That's the number 2. The number 3 is trying to not deal with the emotion and just giving in right away for what you think is peace of mind. Because then you often see regret after some time. People come back and say, why did I do that? I should not have done that. That was crazy. I didn't get peace of mind, and now I have a lot less in money. The fourth thing I see that's often done is people put a lot of their money in retirement accounts. And you lose flexibility in those accounts. And there's a thing called a quadro, qualified domestic relief order, so that you really can't do much, and your spouse is entitled to half of what those retirement accounts are. And the last is putting everything in the house. Often the house is going to be sold, or the divorced spouse is going to keep it. So those are the top five mistakes I see.
And thank you for that empowering answer, Mr. Ivan. So, which of these five mistakes is the most counterintuitive? The one that it seems like the right or smart thing to do, but actually backfires everyone.
Yeah, it's putting the spouse's name on assets for asset protection purposes. All of a sudden, um, you're not thinking that your spouse is going to divorce you or you're going to divorce your spouse. Um, but it happens more often than any other type of creditor issue.
How do these mistakes, Mr. Ivan, differ fundamentally from the common pitfalls in divorce with more modest asset? Is it a difference of scale, complexity, or type of asset?
Yeah, I mean, typically with people with more modest means, what they end up doing, I mean, there's two types of clients that come to my office. The majority are business owners. So what I'm speaking of predominantly today is people who are entrepreneurs. They're not employees because it's a completely different structure. So let me clarify that. So people who are business owners, they just really don't have good books in order. They take expenses that are personal expenses and they put them in the business. So they interrupt and interfere with their business assets because they leave it exposed to argument that that really isn't a business expense. It's your alter ego. You're just combining it. So I mean, we see that as the biggest one on people with more modest means. It's just, they're struggling to get by every day, and there's like 30 things that they need to get done every day, and 30th is keeping their finances and their bookkeeping intact.
Mr. Ivan, tell us, is there a particular mistake you see more often in self made wealth versus generational or inherited wealth?
Yeah. Um, what I see in generational wealth is that although you have trust fund kids that are spoiled and they don't necessarily value the dollar the same, the structure is different, where it's since they inherited it, they're typically put into a trust account and there's usually some sort of fiduciary. Whereas when it's self-made, you don't have that control of the fiduciary. So the people tend to be better protectors of their wealth because they value it, but they make a lot more mistakes when it comes to multi-generational wealth and passing that legacy off to the next generation and the next one thereafter.
Let's talk about the strategy and financial pitfalls, Mr. Ivan. Let's talk about the thing that financial decisions. What is the most dangerous or pre divorce financial move someone can make, thinking they're being clever, that the courts and forensic accountants always catch?
Simple. You do things without a business purpose. You take assets out of the bank and you waste them. Um, if you have a paramour, I love that word paramour, but if you're having somebody who you're having an illicit relationship with and spending money on them, or putting money into things that a person who would not go through a divorce would never consider doing. I mean, it's just pretty obvious, especially you don't need a forensic accountant to identify most of this. It's pretty obvious, but Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, but people don't really have good books. Bookkeeping is the key.
Bookkeeping, organized bookkeeping for sure. Business ownership is a major flashpoint. What is a smarter approach? Fighting to keep the entire illiquid business or finding a creative way to equitably divide its value without destroying it?
It's a great question. The best is by using family limited partnerships. Um, you can provide access to income so that the the foundation is still there, intact, and it grows. And the only issue there is that you would probably need a separate trustee because you don't want to deal with the divorced spouse, or because it's an income stream, you could value what that income stream is in a present value. For example, if you're entitled to 10,000 a month, but the asset itself is worth, let's say, 5 million, um, you're not entitled to 5 million, you're entitled to 10,000 a month. Well, somebody says, well, I will give you 10,000 a month if you give me upfront money. That 5 million might be worth 2 million. A bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. But having structured family limited partnerships, irrevocable trusts, solid plans, that's how you keep the wealth intact. Um, but what you end up doing is giving the spouse an income stream, alimony.
Mm, yes. Income stream for sure. Beyond the obvious like houses, accounts, what is the most commonly overlooked or undervalued asset in a high net worth divorce that becomes a major point of regret later?
The valuation of the business is by far the biggest challenge because nobody knows what it really is worth. Sweat equity, it's worth something, but it's always worth more than worth less than what you think. But it's hard to value, so that's why bookkeeping is incredibly important. And have someone have an appraisal. Um, that's often where people lose the most because they think or believe their business is more than they can prove to the court that it is. And it all stems from not having good accounting.
Wow. Thank you for that empowering answer, Mr. Ivan. And how should the approach to prenuptial or postnuptial agreement change as the wealth grows over the marriage?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, postnuptials, prenuptials are extremely important. I know that they're not, the most romantic thing in a relationship, but it gives peace. And, if you enter into a marriage, you should know that the marriage is not going to be predicated on your net worth, but it's more on how you and your spouse work together to create new wealth and to create a family. And so going into a marriage, a prenuptial can identify all of this and what a long-term marriage is and all of that. But marriages change. The breadwinner is no longer the breadwinner, or a new business comes into play, and both spouses are really working diligently to get it up and running. So we always recommend at least every couple of years to revisit the prenup if there is one, or if there isn't, to get one um, during the marriage, which is called postnup or antenuptial, and really valuing it independently. It's really important to have counsel that represents both spouses that can eliminate problems from the future and keep maintaining it. But again, I keep saying this, knowing what your net worth is, knowing what your books are, because that will change everything. I mean, you may have an asset that's worth a lot more today than it is 5 years from now. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you have a stock portfolio or a real estate portfolio, markets go up and down. So there should be a mechanism in place to value it as a percentage rather than as a dollar figure. And I see quite often it's dollar figures rather than percentages of wealth. And that should need to be changed quite often.
A dollar figure for sure. And Mr. Ivan, what are your short-term and long-term goals as a CEO?
My short-term goals is really to just focus in on the day-to-day stuff that we're doing correct and focusing on the right clientele and doing things that are very niche in my space and making sure that the experience from our clients is exceptional, so that our clients, when they hire us, they feel like they got the best law firm to do what they need and the value's there. Long term is multi-generational, passing it down to either my kids if they take on the practice. They're 12 and 13, so that's a long ways to go. But to have a plan in place where the business can succeed without my presence.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Ivan, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people that don't want to be like you?
Be very, very specific as to what your goals are. Be very clear with how you're going to get there and do not procrastinate. Every day is one day closer to your journey or on your journey, and just realize that the journey is daily. I see a lot of people that complain about things, but they make no changes to the problems. Um, and there's no substitute for hard work.
Substitute for hard work. Yes, and thank you for that advice, empowering advice, Mr. Ivan. So, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, there's a book that I just read by Michael Gerber. It's E-Myth, but there's one specific for my profession. It's E-Myth for lawyers, and it's a book that I've read E-Myth a few times now. It's one of those books where when you read it, um, you have to keep reminding yourself about it because the concepts are so basic, but you forget to follow them every day. So that's one that I'm really getting into again. There's another book that I'm reading. It's right now, currently, it's a book that I found online. It's by a management company called Clio that handles my legal software, but it's just another book on practice management. The hardest thing in my practice is it's growing without having to have my hands touch everything. Delegating and trusting is the if you don't do it right, it's the downfall for every business owner, especially in law.
Yes, and thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Ivan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And tell us, looking at the scale or landscape of high net worth divorce today, what is emerging trend like digital assets, complex trusts, or international holdings is creating a whole new category of potential mistakes.
Yeah, it's expanded. I mean, a few years ago, people were using domestic asset protection trusts. I'm not a big proponent of it. Um, I'm more into creating multi-layers of limited liability companies. And once your net worth gets to a certain level, I would say around 20 million or more, That's when you look at and consider international strategies. One of my favorite is life insurance, but it's not your traditional life insurance. It's like bespoke life insurance where you eliminate 90% of the expenses of a typical life insurance policy. So what you get is access to um, assets in various countries, in various different denominations, so that you're not dealing with currency risk as much. You could open it up in Switzerland as an example and choose three currencies. But what you have is tax deferral, and you have tremendous asset protection, and you have offshore components as well as access to it onshore.
Mr. Ivan, before we wrap our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my Bible verses 101 in fifth season, in the first season as well, a book 101 review in fifth season, a comedy 101 in the third season, and my food 101 in sixth season this December. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Music 101, our fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101, second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Entrepreneur 101 coming this December. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So ultimately is the goal here is to simply keep more money, or is it about achieving settlement that allows for genuine financial statement, Mr. Ivan?
It's about financial freedom. Um, I have a lot of clients that I consult with that they've been going on about saving every dollar. Um, and the higher your net worth, the more typical this becomes is you're fighting tooth and nail for decades. I have a client of mine who's been going through a divorce for over 10 years. So you have to put a price on your sanity. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people who have so much wealth that they'll never get divorced, but they don't live with their spouse, but they have kids in common and houses in common, and but separate lives, separate relationships, and it's you have to put a value on your happiness. Money does a couple things for you. First of all, it puts shelter, food, but once you get past all that and you have a lifestyle now, it's happiness, it's freedom. And people don't realize that when you're dealing with lawyers and divorces for years and years and years, you're not free. You're always dealing with the problem. You're always putting it, kicking the can down the road, but you're always dealing with it. Often you can make a lot more money by giving a little bit more upfront for that freedom so that you can do what you need to do and just move on. And it's hard. I get it. Especially if one creates the wealth and the other one thinks that they're just as valuable in that wealth because they contributed to it, whether it was, taking care of the household or, being there on key important ideas, meetings, or, taking the risk along with the spouse who made the money. And you'll never see eye to eye
Yes.
on that.
Yes, definitely. And Mr. Ivan Turk, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing
Yeah,
right now?
so you can find me on turklawgroup.com. I run my law practice out of Florida, but we are on our strategies. We're pretty much capable of doing it in all 50 states, offshore and here in the country. My projects that we're doing is as an American, I really see this country that it has a tremendous amount of potential for what the theories and promises are, and I'm trying to do everything I can to protect it for my next my kids, the next generation, and their next generation thereafter. So I created a 501c3 called the American Rights Alliance, and we're seeing a lot of people who are in jail right now for being capitalists and for crimes that you wouldn't recognize as crimes, and takes away from people who live in the American dream. So we're working a lot on that. So that's my pet project when I'm not running my law firm.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Ivan Turk, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to come. So, Mr. Ivan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome. More to come, people. See you soon.
Thank you again. Take care.